Is Julian Champagnie the Spurs' unsung hero so far this season? And let's take a look ahead at this week of Spurs games and ask who we're going to be buying stock in.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday. Welcome back to Locked On Spurs. We're doing the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Kent's 5 San Antonio. Glad to have y'all back. Hope you're having a great day and staying warm. If you don't have to drive, don't drive. I think today, especially here in San Antonio, today is the last day of icy conditions. Either way, don't risk it if you don't have to do it. And just be safe. And I hope you all are been safe since this ice storm / winter blast happened here in San Antonio and, of course, across the nation. And thank y'all for making the Locked On Sports Podcast Network #1 in this nation. Don't forget to subscribe to Locked On Sports wherever you get your favorite podcast. You know where to go: iTunes, Spotify, Kent's 5 Plus app, YouTube. Go subscribe right now. Become an everydayer. We definitely appreciate it. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You want to go to FanDuel right now because it's the last call for football on FanDuel. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. All right, what are we talking about today? If you're on YouTube, you can see what we're talking about. If not, well, I'll let you know. Champagnie having a really solid year. Is he the Spurs' unsung hero? Well, we'll look at some numbers. What does the eye test tell us? And then we'll look at the week ahead, the Spurs games this week from Monday on till Friday when we take a break this weekend. And then kind of give an idea, or at least kind of grasp, like, which player or players should we be buying stock in based on the games ahead. So let's have some fun with that and more. It's Monday, everybody. What does that mean? Mondays with Matt Guzman here on Locked On Spurs. He is with Spurs on Sports Illustrated. Matt, welcome again. Hope you're staying safe and staying warm.
Yeah, absolutely. Still TBD on whether or not I'll be able to make that Pelicans game.
Yeah.
Hopefully it all works out, and hopefully everyone is staying safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, I think the NBA canceled a few games due to weather issues. I think a Dallas game got canceled, stuff like that. But, I get a kick out of this, Matt, and you probably appreciate this. I lived in Michigan for 4 years, and then I lived in New York City for about 20 years. And I go outside in this cold weather. I'm like, oh, man, it's just a t-shirt and short weather. This is perfect. It feels good. I love winters. I love cold weather. I don't know about you, Matt. What about you?
I do, actually, and it sounds basic, but the reason I do is because I feel like I can dress a lot better, a lot cooler items I can wear, things that you can use to spice up a wardrobe. Sometimes just t-shirts, shorts every time.
Yeah.
So I do appreciate the cold weather.
Yeah, I just don't like summer because I think heat is miserable. I think just summers are miserable.
It's brutal, especially in Texas.
It's especially in Texas. All right, and that is your weather update here on Locked On Spurs. I think it's the first weather update you ever did in the history of Locked On Spurs. All right, Matt, let's dive into it here. Let's start off and talk about Julian Champagnie. Here's a guy who went undrafted, latched onto the Spurs, for a few years now. And as far as this season is concerned, what a revelation. What a revelation. Heading into this new season, many thought, well, the Spurs don't have a sniper. They don't have a sniper. Well, they actually do now. And his name is Julian Champagnie. I look at so far his season, and I'm going to say, I think he's been kind of an unsung hero. You would have had maybe a strong case for Harrison Barnes, but he's really taken a step back statistically. But a guy who's been relatively consistent and available, and no knock on Harrison Barnes. Yeah, he's an Iron Man, but I guess the next Iron Man on the Spurs roster is Julian. Plays every game, gives you max effort, knocking down those shots, and notably this season, getting rebounds, getting it done on the glass, whether offensively, defensively. I think you put that all together, and we'll get into some numbers in a bit, but my eye test tells me, I think ultimately so far, he is the Spurs' unsung hero. What do you think?
I mean, better than anyone, I've been probably one of the bigger champions for Julian for a long time now.
Yeah.
He's a guy that it's one of those contracts where people don't, I think that's the part that maybe isn't talked about enough is what he's doing for what he's being paid.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't a guy who's being paid the way Devin Vassell is getting paid. Mm-hmm. He's not on, a 5-year mega deal. I think he's making, $3 to $5 million a year over 4 years, and that's obviously going to be something the Spurs want to extend here in a little bit. But I mean, what this guy can do is exactly what the Spurs have been needing for quite a long time. And it's just reliable 3-point scoring. Very simple. The Spurs have been looking for that. They had Doug McDermott for a little bit, but even he wasn't as dynamic as Julian is proving, when you talk about the way he can rebound, and, he's not a liability on defense either. He's a really solid all around player.
He is.
He's gotten hot at exactly the right time for the Spurs. And I think that's really worked in their favor as of late.
Yeah. What I also like about it too is that, he did start the season pretty well, shooting really well from the season to start the season, but then he had kind of a little bit of a dip, but he kind of came back fast. And I like that because you saw him in the last season, the year before, again, same pattern, started off really hot for many months and then cooled off and never really returned. But this year he's staying a little bit more consistent for his standards. And I really, really like about the team. Also like the way that, I could probably try my best Julian Champagnie impression when you ask him questions, Matt. So I'll just pretend like I'm asking him a question right now. Like, hey, Julian, what happened with the game today or your game? And his is how he does it. He goes, knocked it down, knock down the shots. That's all I got to do. Just come in and knock down some shots.
Honestly and truly.
Yeah, honestly and truly. Yeah, just knock down shots. Yeah, stick to the game plan. But that's what I love about him is that he just sees things very black and white. Very black and white. For example, rebounding, we'll get into that in a bit, but just rebounding, you ask him like, hey, you're increasing your rebounds. Because like, yeah, I got to get better somewhere, right? Yeah, I was like good rebounds. But he does it like so matter of fact, like he's trying to tell us like, it ain't that hard. It's very simple. And I like that. And I also like the fact that he's accepted his role. He knows he's not Victor. He's not Castle. He's a Devin or Kate, not even Kelvin. He just knows what he has to do. Knock down shots, create floor spacing. And this year, we're seeing a lot more dedication to crashing the boards. So he's fitting his role. Matt, what other aspects of his game so far have you seen from him that you really enjoy?
I think the thing for me, and this has been something that's been evident ever since he started to break out, even a little bit. I think this time last year we did an episode called, Julian Champagnie's breakout season or something like that. Like you mentioned, he knows what he has to do. He's very black and white. The thing that I've really enjoyed about him is how even keeled he is. I think we talk about it quite often. It's hard to be an NBA player and experience, the adversity and shots aren't falling and you're losing games. And we've heard from Keldon how much losing sucks. What Julian does as a shooter is, he really does rinse and repeat every game. And he can have the game he had on New Year's Eve where he's got 11 threes, he breaks a franchise record, or he'll have a game, and I think he's had one this year where he's gone 0 for 4, 0 for 5. But it doesn't matter to him. And I think, I liked your Julian and Champagnie impression. It was really spot on. Because you'll ask him about it. He's like, well, we'll just keep shooting. That's it. That's what I got to do. And it's very simple, and so I really like the way that he approaches that. And I think it's really paid off because you have to be able to do that, to compartmentalize the good games and the bad games and keep your role the same.
Yeah. And what I also like too is the fact that he commands, or he's getting the respect from his teammates. I had a chance to catch up with De'Aaron Fox recently, and I asked him, like, hey, talk about the impact that Champagnie has had so far this season. And Fox said it perfectly. He said he can go 0 for 4, 0 for 5, or hit his shots. It doesn't matter because he creates so much floor spacing that opposing teams have to honor that. He said they know that he can do that. And he went on further to say, like, the amount of gravity that Champagnie creates, even if he's not knocking down his buckets, it's still impactful. So what does that mean? Well, it's just Champagnie's helping his teammate, whether he's on or he's not on for the night. But he's been a lot more on than off this season. So he has De'Aaron Fox, getting the tip of the cap from his teammate there. I mean, that's just great. Good for his confidence, good for his fit, good for his role. And just a great pat in the back from, a former All-Star like De'Aaron Fox. One thing I also like about Champagnie, get your thoughts on this too, is that you never, first of all, he's always available. I think that's key. He's always available. I mean, he was last year, he played all 82, correct? And if I'm correct, right, he's played every single game this year so far, right?
I believe so. Yeah. He's never been on the list.
Yeah. And as they say, Matt, get your thoughts on this. He's available, and that's the best ability, is being available. Your thoughts?
For sure. And obviously the Spurs have struggled, not as much as last year, obviously, but they've struggled this year with some injuries to Victor, to Devin, to Dylan, to Castle. They haven't dealt with any injuries to Julian. So that's one thing on its own. Right. But that aside, what Champagnie can do is when those guys, he's been the go-to guy anytime that one of the starters is out. Mitch Johnson knows that he can go to Julian, and we talked to him about that, and he said, Julian has done it before. He had been in the starting role before Victor shows up, and obviously the whole team kind of shifts. But whether it's because of that or just because he's the go-to guy every single time. Last season, when Devin missed a chunk of the season to start, it was Champagnie who got the start right from the jump. And so he has the experience now at this point to be a de facto starter, to be somebody they can call on when they need. And, like you're saying, availability is really key. That's been huge for the Spurs, who know that, not only is he going to be available because, maybe we can get 5 threes from him. It's what De'Aaron was saying. Just because he's available, you're going to have defenses that have to tend to Julian. They have to honor the space that he creates, the gravity that he has. And just because of that, you can count on that being there. So you can work your offense around it. And I think that that's been something the Spurs have been able to utilize a lot.
Absolutely. He is Matt Guzman with Spurs on Sports Illustrated. Follow my next at Matt GZMAN. When we get back, let's look at some numbers now. What do the numbers tell us about the impact and Champagnie fulfilling that unsung hero role so far this season? Hey, let's talk about FanDuel. It is the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or just building one last same-game parlay, this is where the action, this is where everybody can go. This is where everyone's been waiting for. This is the game. This is it. It's here. You want to go to FanDuel. This is where your predictions turn into plays, stats, turns into storylines. Every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5, and that'll get you $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Thank you for making Locked On Spurs your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already, go check out our new Everydayer Club. Access to ad-free audio feed for Locked On Spurs, compatible with Apple's Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. An invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat for just listeners of this show and, well, hanging out with a lot of other fans on Discord. You want to go to this website right now, lockedonpodcast.com/everydayerclub. Go there right now, or just tap the link in the show notes to learn more. We're back right here at Locked On Spurs, joined by Matt Guzman. It's Monday. You know what that means. Matt makes a visit. He is with Spurs on Sports Illustrated, talking about all things San Antonio Spurs. And right now, we're talking about Julian Champagnie. Now, in the first segment, we hit on the eye test. The eye test tells us, yeah, he's a floor spacer. Eye test tells us, yeah, he's accepted his role. Eye test tells us that, well, maybe not the eye test, but the vocal test from his teammate, De'Aaron Fox, talking to me about Champagnie and just how valuable he is. So the eye test, all that good stuff works. But let's get into the nitty gritty now, man. Look at some of the numbers now. And right off the bat, I mean, seriously, look, we know that he's known for three-point shooting. We know, we get that. We understand that. But he's also shattering records along the way. So first of all, if you look beyond the shooting from the arc, he's 57.3% in his 2-point shooting percentage right now. All right. And that is that's right behind his second best in his career at 59%. And then over the last 3 games heading into this weekend's Pelicans game on Sunday, he was connected on 49% of his 3-point attempts in those last 3 leading up to that New Orleans game. It's even better. All right. So we're talking about those rebounding, right, Matt? He's averaging career high right now, 6.2 rebounds per game, becoming the first player in NBA history to score at least 36 points versus New York without ever having to take a 2-point shot. Matt, the numbers don't lie. He's valuable, isn't he?
Absolutely. And this is a guy that is not only, like you mentioned, able to deliver from three, but when you have a player like that who also has another piece of his game that can really, really help your team, I mean, it's huge. All of a sudden you go from, a one-dimensional decent impact guy to somebody that you can kind of like a jack of all trades, right? He can defend, he can get rebounds, he can score from inside, he can score from outside. It's one of those things where, Champagnie is quickly becoming just somebody the Spurs can ask to do whatever they need to do. It doesn't have to be just three-point shooting. It can be, rebounding. It can be, we need you to guard this guy, or we need you to help down low. Like, he's going to be up for the challenge. And, like the numbers you were just mentioning a second ago, he's going to be pretty successful, which is, impressive on its own, but certainly for the Spurs, who have been looking for a guy like this for quite a while now.
Now look at some more numbers to back up how much of an unsung hero Champagnie has been. So whenever he's on the floor, Matt, in about 1,290 minutes so far this season, the Spurs, they see a net rating of plus 9.7. They have an offensive rating of 122 and a defensive rating of 112.3. So there's your net rating right there. So again, he's a positive for this team. And let's dig a little deeper with the defensive numbers. All right. So he's averaging right now a defensive rebounding percentage of 78.4%. And when his teammates do find him, so when they pass that ball to him and he's there with that ball about to shoot, he's connected on 87.6% of assisted field goal shots. So he's, teammates love to pass him because likely they're going to rack up an assist and he's going to knock down some points. Is there any other numbers that you've seen so far from him, or just stats, or maybe throw in another eye test that you think that doesn't get mentioned enough when it comes to Julian?
I think when you look at some of his better games in the season, it typically, and I say this just, I haven't really done a deep dive into some of these figures, right? But the games that he's shooting like crazy, on New Year's Eve, especially when he had the 37 to 36 points or whatever he had, you're not necessarily seeing a lot on the other end or on the other categories. So if he's shooting really well, maybe he's not going to get as many assists, or maybe he's not going to get as many rebounds, but some of his better games, like Milwaukee just the other night, I mean, he had 13 points and 11 assists, and he had a double-double 2 games before that and the game before that on a back-to-back. And so I think the way that he's been able to get not only hit his shots, but find rebounds as well at the same time, I think that he's been really, really good and really reliable in double-double situations. And I mean, that's something that, when you look at the stat sheet, you're going to notice that right away. Before you notice the leading scorer, you're going to notice how many guys were in double figures, how many guys had double doubles, and Julian Champagnie it's not a one-off if he goes and gets 10 rebounds and makes 10 points or however many it is. So I think that's what I've enjoyed watching from him this season.
Again, heading into that game this past Sunday versus the Pelicans, he enjoying one of his best shooting percentages from deep. Right now, 0.379%. That's his second best shooting from beyond the arc in his young career. That's the thing we got to think about too. He's still a young player in this league. I think he's 4 or 5 years into being a pro here. So, I don't know if he's reached his ceiling yet. He's showing marked improvement in other areas. We mentioned the rebounding. I talked to him recently. He told me that he's been working on this catch and shoot a lot more. So he's still looking to grow, and rightfully so. He's young. I got to hear. Yeah, he's in his 4th year right now. So the sky's the limit too. And again, we talk about just making history too. We just got here. He also set the NBA record for 3-pointers in a game by an undrafted player. Excuse me. In that game versus the Knicks, where he connected on 11. So he is definitely deadly. He is deadly. And I'm going to say right now, Matt, the NBA better invite him to the 3-point shooting contest, right? He's got to be there, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I hope somebody gets to ask him about it before, because I want to, I'd be curious to know what he has to say to that. I don't think he's ever been in a position where, his role is prominent enough that he would make a splash there. And so I'm curious if he'd get that invitation, if he thinks he wants to. Maybe he's not about that life. I don't know, but but absolutely, I think he would do really well. I think it'd be really cool to see him be another representative for the Spurs.
Absolutely, because I think Mitch Johnson is going to be the West head coach. Because I think the rule is you can't have back-to-back coaches, because of Mark Dagenal did it last year. So
right.
Mitch Johnson is going to be one. I mean, I'm pretty sure that's the rule. I'm pretty sure. So, hopefully the Spurs will be well represented in the All-Star game, because we know Wemby's going. That's obvious. We know Carter Bryant will likely be invited to the rookie challenge. So there's a check. Steph Castle likely will be at the rookie sophomore challenge. So check. You got David Jones Garcia, who could possibly be representing Austin Spurs at the NBA G League Next Up game. We got to see Julian in the 3-point shootout. We got to see it. So hopefully that will happen. But nevertheless, yeah, all around, in our opinion, we gave you the eye test. We gave you the numbers. We talked to y'all that it wasn't just simply his offense. Even his defensive rebounding numbers are up. He's doing it all on the court. But what about y'all? Do y'all think that Champagnie has been an unsung hero for this Spurs? Let Matt know on X at MattGZMAN. Let me know on X at Jeff G Spurs Zone. When we get back, we're going to look ahead at this week's games and ask which player are you going to pick right now to put some money on? Who you can buy stock in? Coming up next right here on Locked On Spurs. But it's all about game time. There's nothing like being in an NBA arena, the crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, well, that part can't be simple at times, right? That's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back to where it belongs, with you, the fans. You can pull up the Game Time app. You can pick an upcoming NBA game, and you get tickets locked in minutes. You'll love seeing the all-up front price cost. Yeah, no surprises at the end. You're going to see it right up front. You'll be able to see views from your seat before buying and making the decision. You get zone deals. Basically, you choose the section. Game Time will pick the seats. You can be able to save that way. Last-minute options, NBA tickets showing up at solid prices, no eye gouging. Everything feels quick, intuitive, stress-free from start to finish. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account. Use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. And remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. We're back right here on Locked On Spurs, joined by Matt Guzman with Spurs on Sports Illustrated. It's Monday, and of course, that means Matt makes his visit here on Locked On Spurs. All right, Matt, it's time to look ahead at this week's upcoming games. So we got a few. We got three. Starting on Wednesday in Houston. It'll be Spurs Rockets. And then Saturday, January 31st, Spurs at Hornets. And then Sunday, February 1, back in San Antonio, Orlando versus Spurs. Let's see. What are your predictions so far? Let's start off with Spurs Rockets. I'm going to go with Spurs. I think the Spurs have the Rockets number. What do you think?
Same here. I think everyone is especially upset after what happened this past time out in Houston. They had a lead. They blew it again. Victor spoke on that. So I think they have that one.
Yeah, I think so. I think they'll have their number in this one. There'll be a little revenge factor. They're not going to want to see what happened in Houston the other day happen again on repeat. So Matt and I got the Spurs 1-0 so far. This is interesting. Spurs at Hornets. Hornets are a very scrappy team, very young team. They like to up that pace. We all know LaMelo's there. They got Brandon Miller. I don't know if he's playing or not. I'll look at that in a bit. But nevertheless, Spurs, Hornets, who you got there?
Spurs. I don't think they'll have any issue.
Yeah, I got the Spurs there too as well. I mean, you look at the Hornets right now, 12th in the East, 18-28. They're definitely not playing well right now. If we look at their last few games, they beat the Wizards recently. I don't know. I mean, they beat the Wizards. They beat the Magic. They slugged it out with the Cavs, but they lost that one. And they beat the Nuggets. So they're playing a little better ball of late right now. And you look at some of their lineups right here. Well, actually, before you get the lineups there, I think the intriguing thing is Con Knippel playing against Dylan Harper for the first time this season as well. Knippel, he's got to win the Rookie of the Year, right? At this rate, unless
probably
Flag has some incredible second half, but Knepel's been steady.
Yeah, and I always like watching the year after year these the different situations. Like Victor's was between him and Chet, and then last year nobody really knew what was going to happen. So I think this year it's going to be a good test to see what the voters will do, whether they'll reward, like you said, that consistency that Connor showed, or Cooper Flagg being the explosive rookie who, he's been really good. He really found his footing, so I'm curious to see what they'll reward more. But I think you're right. It's probably going to be a rookie of the year versus Dylan Harper.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll look at that matchup. And of course, that'll be the one in focus. Obviously, I think Matt and I agreement. We got the Spurs getting this one. And the last game for this upcoming week, Magic at Spurs. That one's interesting. The Spurs already 1-0 versus Orlando this season, beating them in their gym. I think in that game, though, Paolo did not play, if I remember correctly.
So didn't play, I believe. And that was Luke Cornett's famous pose game.
Yes, that was. Yes. It's an early game, too, by the way, everybody. It's at 3 o'clock San Antonio time. So get heads up on that. You know what? Give me the Spurs. I got the Spurs going 3-0 this week. What do you think?
Same here. That was what I was going to say.
3-0. All right. Well, knowing those games, we got Rockets, Hornets, and Magic. Who are you buying stock in for this upcoming week? And Matt, I got to show off though. I got to show off my brilliant graphic there, Matt. All right, let's do a little stock watch, Matt. Based on the games that we just ran through right now, again, Hornets, Rockets, and Magic. Who are you buying stock in right now?
I'm going to go ahead and say Carter Bryant. And I say that, and I'll get to that in a little bit too at the end of our show. But I've really liked what I've seen from him the last couple of games. I think since he's come back from Austin, he's played double-digit minutes in 4 of the 6 matchups. One of them was that close loss to Oklahoma City, so I can't really blame him for not getting too many minutes there. But he's really, really been. And I said this when I talked about him the other week when I came on. It was really cool to watch him just exist in the G League, because that's something that he was never opposed to doing. And he went down there and he made the most of his minutes, and he got a nice text from Keldon, and he did well. And he comes back and he's definitely brought some of that confidence back with him. He got a couple dunks down in the NBA, which
finally
something that everyone's been waiting on, and I got a chance to talk to several of the guys about, just what it was like to watch him find that confidence and start seeing the success. He was saying that he's had a couple of long nights this season, after games where he goes home and he doesn't know why his hard work isn't paying off or why his shots aren't falling. And so I think it's been really cool to see him start to really find himself. And I think he's been, a positive factor for the Spurs ever since that's happened, whether it be because of his defense or because of his offense. He can get transition buckets. He can hit a 3 here and there. He's really growing. And so I'm going to go ahead and buy some stock in him this week.
Yeah. So, not a bad buy there. Not a bad buy. Are you buying a lot of stock or, a few?
I might start buying a little bit of stock every week, like on a mechanical basis kind of thing. You know what I mean?
All right. Fair enough. Just talk to your financial advisor, though, before you turn the final decisions there. Yeah, good pick. All right, I'm going to go with the guy who is back, everybody. Devin Vassell. Yes, he made a return versus the Pelicans. And a lot of fans were thinking he was the missing piece recently when the Spurs were sputtering offensively. At one point, they were playing below 500 basketball. They would go look at the schedule. You don't believe me. And the minute you look to this guy, you see your screen as the missing link. And now that he is back, is he going to rejuvenate this team? Now, I played against the Pelicans, but what about the next few games? Rockets, Hornets, and Magic. 2 out of 3 tough games. We don't know if he's on a minutes restriction as of this recording, but
he is.
He is. Okay, so he is on a minutes restriction. Either way, let's look at some of the numbers before he got injured. So those last 5 games before they shelved him, he was averaging about 10.2 points per game, 4.4 rebounds. He was making about 2 3-pointers a game, and he had a true shooting percentage of 44%. Now, overall this season, he's averaging about 15 points per game, 4.1 rebounds, averaging about 3 3-pointers made a game. That's huge. And shooting 55.6 true shooting percentage. So I'm buying stock in Devin. I know he's on a minutes restriction. I get that. But what's key for me is that floor spacing he's going to bring. Now they have another threat on that floor. I think you got to buy stock in him now. You got to buy the stock price is low right now, Matt, because he's just coming back from injury. He is. You dig deeper here too. He's given the team this season overall 2.4 assists a game. His 2-point percentage shooting is about 48%. He's probably their best mid-range game guy they got. There we go. And yeah, when he's at the floor, man, the Spurs are a plus 4.5. And he probably would have made the difference in a few of these games this season, Matt, when he was out with those close games. He could have been the difference. You know, when Rockets were charging back, he could have been making those key shots when the Spurs went ice cold. I'm buying stock on him now because the stock price is low, Matt. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a good decision. And I like what you're mentioning too. Like what he's done this season has been really, really huge on his end because, you know, for the last couple of years, you and I have been saying, you know, it's not that he's bad. It's just he hasn't been playing to the level of 165 million or whatever he's being paid. And that was clear. I think even he knew that, you know, and so this season he didn't take that step forward to go score 30 points a game, but he didn't need to. Instead, you know, he fell back into a more consistent role, and he's been, I would argue, the most consistent Spur this season, you know, apart from Julian Champagnie, who we were talking about earlier, you know, because he, instead of going upward and trying to score 20, 30 points a game, he kind of fell back. He's 12 to 15 points a game, but he's done really, really well shooting from mid-range. He's been able to hit a three. He's just been so consistent offensively, and he was a big part of their big part of that surge that they had at the beginning of the year. And obviously they've kind of fallen back ever since. So I'm really looking forward to getting him back on the offense to watch how it clicks, you know, because the Spurs team, if they get going on a run like they had at the beginning of the year, I mean, they're on a collision course with 50 or even 55 wins. And so, you know, if he can get back going, and obviously the minutes restriction will take him some time, you know, but I think that's a good decision to buy some stock in him as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think he's going to do well versus Houston. I think he's going to do really well. I think maybe all Spurs are going to do well versus the Hornets. But Orlando, I think that'll be key for the Spurs as well to take on a team that's good in the East. So overall, yeah, I'm buying stock right now in Devin Vassell while the price is low right now. And that man is on your screen. He is buying some stock in Carter Bryant. All right, there was your stock watch. Here, I'm just very proud of this. Very easy, basic, simple.
Looks good. Yeah, I like it.
Oh, my God. You see those numbers flashing? That's so many times I had to try to get this right. 21 times, took a break. 54 times, I took a break. 21 more times, took a break. All right, everybody. That's it. Yeah, that's a great show there. Matt, though, we can't let you go because you brought up Carter Bryant as the guy that you're going to be buying stock in. But you also have a lot more than just buying stock in him, don't you?
I do. Yeah. I just I got an article going up on Sunday to talk about Carter Bryant's steady rise this season, especially what's gone into this recent success since he's come back from Austin. The guys have been really, really appreciative of what he's done, really proud of him. And they also like to tease him. I've been hearing that there are a lot of other ways beyond missing dunks that Carter Bryant can get his head shaped. So we'll see if he ends up bald by the season's end.
Yeah, exactly. He talked about that at post game when one game, I forgot what it was in San Antonio. Well, the game they had a really good night, that 11-point night he had. And I like how they brought up to his attention, like, about getting his head shaved. And he's like, all right, so what? I go bald. Like, I think he's down. He's down. So he sounds like he's like, whatever, bring it on. But obviously,
he had a little bit of a different tone in the locker room the other night when I brought it up. He was like, I'm not doing that. I was like, all right.
Yeah. Now, you ever consider shaving your head?
I was actually thinking about that while I was writing the article. If I would, you know, Castle told me that they offered him $25,000 to do it without the whole 3 dunks or whatever, and he declined it. I don't know if I would shave my head for $25,000. Even still, I don't know if I could do it.
Yeah, I'm doing it for $25K. I'll do it.
That's fair, and that's the reasonable answer. I don't know. I'm really scared of what would happen if I went bald right now.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
Little.
But at my age, I'm afraid to never come back. That's what I'm worried about. He's like, oh, you shaved it off. All right, we don't have to grow anymore. You're done already. You're on this planet for a while now. You're good. But no. It's a great article. Obviously, everybody go check it out. You know it's going to be good. You just follow Matt on X. That's probably the best way to do it. Matt GZMEN. Go follow him right now. He's with Spurs on Sports Illustrated. And as always, that was Matt. Right here on Locked On Spurs for Mondays with Matt. Matt, we appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon in the next upcoming games for the Spurs. Everybody else, we thank y'all for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. Free and available wherever you get podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Kens 5 Plus app, YouTube. One thing you also got to do is check out the NBA Everydayer Club. All right, so first of all, you love tuning into Locked On Spurs, right? Well, now you got to go make sure and follow Locked On Spurs over at the NBA Everydayer Club. So what is it? Again, it is built for you. It's where you can get Locked On Spurs ad free. You get a members only Discord access and so much more. You want to go to this website right now. You want to go to lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer club. There you'll find the link to sign up right now. So I appreciate it if you go do that. And we'll be back tomorrow as the Spurs season continues. So for Matt Guzman, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock in this episode of Locked On Spurs.